to give you another weekly reading update, another Grimm Chronicles, and this is going to be number 12. And I'm filming on my iPad for once, so we'll see how things go. Had to prop it up on Proust. You're actually sitting on my Proust box, so which I do need to get to at some point. So how are things going? So I'm not going to talk a lot about content, but I'm still moving forward through my big two books, Gaddis and Karenina. And so I think I mentioned this last week. So what I did was, and I'm actually reaching for it. I'll be back. I can cut this out. So what I did last week is I decided to track my reading more explicitly, and so I have lists of numbers and pages, and so what you see here, or what I have here, I decided I should try and read 10 pages a day of each book, and then also try and I figured out I needed to read 27 pages of my other book to finish it. This is the short one I was reading, because I always like to try and finish a book so I have something new to talk about as I read these, as I sort of plow slowly through these big books. And it worked fairly well. I do think I probably read more and more consistently because of this schedule and amount that I had written down, but it was a little bit of a burden, it was okay. I mean, it didn't get too much, too terrible and too onerous, but it was borderline, not exactly stressful, but just unpleasant but it wasn't too bad. I mean, I'm not sure what to make of it. So, and so the big thing is that I didn't quite finish this. I did fall behind a little bit. Even, 10 of each of these big books and 27 of this book, which I had picked because it's short, but I had forgotten that Brookner's actually pretty literary. I mean, her style is not, it's wonderful. It's a really good book, and I highly recommend it. But it's not sort of a quick read, like something lighter. It's not light. It wasn't quite the right choice, even though I'm loving it and I'm going to finish it. I mean, I'm not going to not read it. So, it's tricky with this other book that I try and pick to get through quickly. I think the one I have lined up, it will be better, if only because it's a graphic novel. And so what I did was I redid the list, starting on where I'm at, kind of. So I still have a list that I want to do, but I'm going to kind of step back and count where I'm at, and then just go on from there. Another 10 pages a day for the two big ones. This one I'm just going to try and finish, and I'm going to talk about it today as if it were finished, just because it's almost finished. And the endings are not, I am not quite sure how it will end, but So let me get into the Brookner. So this is her second novel. I was looking at Sarah at Hardcover Hearts, because Sarah and Leo at Little Book Life were doing a read all of Brookner project, and I'm jumping on that project. I don't know if I'll read all of them, but I might. I've got the first 5. So, and I do like I'm collecting them too. So there's a little bit of the collector aspect going on. So this is and what's interesting to me, so she published this in the 80s. And I don't know how the others feel about this, but I think they read like there's a timeless quality to them. They could be set earlier almost. If you think of other things that were published in the 80s, this seems almost old-fashioned. Not in a bad way. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not sort of stridently feminist or it's subdued, but that probably goes along with Brookner herself. And so I haven't done a lot of reading about her, but I did kind of find out that she was actually Brookner, so Jewish Polish background, and they anglicized it to Brookner. So there's that kind of feeling a little bit not at the center of English society, and we see that with Kitty, the main character in this story too, whose background is French, and sort of the grandparents, I would say, call sort of upwardly mobile, but lower class, lower middle class French people. They're not sort of hoity-toity French people. They're not Proust. They're people who, the grandmother, who's her main parents are her grandparents, because the other ones are gone, her grandmother's a dressmaker, so petit bourgeois of a certain French sort, and so one of the issues or themes of the book is her alienation to a certain degree from English society, and that's sort of signified by the fact that she never really knew her father, who was English and who died young, I guess, in the war, I guess. So I think that's how it is. And then her mother is this sort of cipher of a figure, very subdued and almost described as childlike, and she passes away, young too. And so we're left with Kitty, who's very bright and an academic. And one of the things, as a academic myself, I did enjoy the scenes of one of the running themes of the book is her seminar with only 3 students, which would never be allowed to happen today. But so it's very sort of this British, even though she's not at Oxbridge, she's they make a big deal out of her being at a residential, not Oxbridge type university. But she has a seminar with 3 students, and they're reading Adolphe by Benjamin Constant, which I do want to read, having now attended the seminar with the students. So it does sound like a good book. I mean, a book that I would enjoy. So her area of expertise is Romanticism, I guess European Romanticism, French Romanticism to be specific. And I thought that's an enjoyable part of the book, reading about academics doing their academic thing, which is basically teaching of a sort. And then, so the main sort of theme is this somewhat requited, but not requited in the way she wants, love affair with a fellow professor who's portrayed as very handsome and sort of charming, but not really invested in her. And also partly because he's invested someone else. And so, of course, that's part of why, this is not, and this idea of a woman pining for a man seems a little bit dated, but it's really well handled and really well written, and she has these brilliant passages where she's really good at sort of social observations. There's this one passage that I think, I'm not quite sure if Sarah mentioned this, but where she describes, or she sees a female colleague, and how that female colleague lives kind of this lonely life looking after her mother. And what's really kind of the best literary moments are, we see the Kitty seeing this and kind of getting something, learning or realizing something about her own growing, or having sort of this empathic view of someone else's life, allowing her to have a realization perhaps of her own plight, or just putting it in perspective in a certain sense. The writing is actually excellent. I think it's actually a little bit better than the first book, which was A Start in Life. And definitely a 5-star read for me. I hope it ends in a good place, but I think it will. I think it will at least end somewhere where and already I'm on page 140 something, and it's a novel of 183 pages. I'm getting the sense that she is growing out of this affair. She's sort of realizing certain things about it. And there's really nice passages where she travels to France, and we see her in this cathedral, Saint Denis, and really good. I'm really enjoying it. Wasn't quite the right fit with these 2 chunky books, but still very, very good. So yeah, I think I'm going to, because I'm still in the thick of these two. I'm going to forego saying anything much about them this week. It's still going strong, and I'm still enjoying them. But because I don't want it to get too repetitive, I'll save my thoughts until another time. This is just a check-in to tell you. I know a lot of booktubers wouldn't even do a video since they haven't finished the book, and so what's the sense of making these videos when I'm just slowly reading a book? But I've talked about, well, this is my wrap up, and I'm kind of moving through them, and I'm just giving you an update, and I hope that's acceptable to people as a slow reader. So let's see what else has happened. So I think, was it last week that I had talked about really, really having to put down a self-help book because it was so annoying to me. And so this is someone who I really, really enjoy, and I'm just dipping into her stuff now and then. And I just wanted to see if other people know her works. So, and there's even been some controversy about the center where she's at. So I'm talking about Pema Chödrön, Buddhist nun, American Buddhist nun, and she does have a center now. I think it's in Colorado, and I know that someone involved in the center was involved in some scandals, But Pena, I think she's a wonderful writer and woman, a thinker, even though I'm not really an expert on the Buddhist tradition, but I do find her writing very, very, she just kind of gets it in terms of how messed up we can be, and how, what does she say, even on the first page, it's just so useful to me. She says things like, there's a richness to all of the smelly stuff that we so dislike and so little desire. The delightful things, what we love so dearly about ourselves, the places in which we feel some sense of pride or inspiration, these are also our wealth. So this idea of embracing the darkness in us, in ourselves, or the things we don't like. And it goes on from there. I've had sort of read more of this one. I could probably say I've read this one, but I also have this one. So this is even more when, you know, when things are not going well. This is, yeah, I have read around in this one too. So I just wanted to show them as books that I've read around in. And then the other thing, so someone who will remain nameless, but they won't know who they are. So the outward-facing academic of this week is the creator of a fantastic podcast that someone who's not being named will recommend it to me. History of Philosophy Without Any Gaps. And it's a podcast that is available on Spotify, and there's a wonderful website. I'll put a link to it. And it's Professor Peter Adamson from King's College, but also from Ludwig Maximilians Universität Munich. So he's a philosophy professor at those two places. And this is an absolutely amazing podcast. And it's a history of philosophy without any gaps. And so from what I can gather, there are over 350 episodes of Western philosophy, starting with Thales. And I've already listened to that one. And I started listening to the next one. And those are two people, I can never pronounce them. Who are the other people? Anyway, I forget, you know, the next two, Anaximander and Alexander or something, the X ones. Anyway, and so after that, though, he does have about 40 episodes on Indian philosophy and Islamic. There are quite a few on Islamic philosophy. And then the most recent ones he has are on African philosophy and sort of bringing it into relevant, you know, timely talk about, so slavery, diaspora. So there's, at least 30 something episodes on people like Frederick Douglass and the colonization controversy, Ida B. Wells, Booker T. Washington, Du Bois, and I have a feeling it's not done the Haitian Revolution, which is something I'm interested in, and absolutely amazing. And I'm going to listen to them. I'm going to just kind of listen to them as if it were an audiobook, but once I have time, or I'm going to figure out, I do think there's a transcript for these, and they're in book form even, so they are a book as well. But if any of you are interested in philosophy in a kind of bite-sized, palatable, not too heavy way, these podcasts are really good and entertaining. And not only that, then he has further reading. And then each page on the website here has a pretty active comment section where he's pretty good about responding to people. Some people on the first one, he say, well, why are you doing Indian after? In the timeline, it should come at the same time as some of the earlier Greek stuff. But he just says, well, I had to start somewhere, and I'm not an expert on this one. But then you see him even in the comments changing his mind a little bit and deciding he has to come back and do more stuff with Indian philosophy and Buddhism. And I don't know about Chinese, that may not be there, but I'm sure it'll come up at some point, at least in the comments. So amazing stuff that I am going to partake of. And I'm also continuing, I'll try and add a picture right here, with Gardens of the Moon by Stephen Erikson, my long epic fantasy novel, high fantasy, which I'm really enjoying, even more than before. It was funny how at some point I had a bit of a dip where I thought, oh, really? This is so long, and this is the first of 10, and do I really want to do this? But I rallied quickly, and now I'm really enjoying it. And it doesn't matter that it's the first of 10, and it doesn't matter if I only do this one and not do the other ones, but you know what? I probably will, because I really am enjoying it. And it kind of fits very well, even though it's long, so it's another long thing. But because it's different but good, you know, good genre fiction of this immersive kind. It takes me away from the chunkers enough, but it's not sort of a letdown, or it's just different enough that it's refreshing, if that makes any sense. So yeah, that's going well too. And so the last thing I want to talk about is my upcoming read for this week, and it's going to be a graphic novel or book, Red Rosa, about Rosa Luxemburg, of whom I know the headlines. You know, I know that she was killed by the Freikorps, that she's, you know, a left-leaning, a socialist. I don't really know a lot about her actual writings, although I did remember reading excerpts of her letters back in the day. And I'm reading this with Alva, and I will, you know, check in with her on Voxer soon. And I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a nice, just because it's a graphic novel, it's easy to read. It'll be refreshing. And I hope it doesn't take us that long. Let me see how long it is. 200 pages. So yeah. Oh, and there's an afterword too, which we should probably read. And there's also quite a few notes or pages. Oh, I see. That's interesting. That's interesting. She has a lot of notes. That's actually really good. So, I'm just looking at the pictures. You can't help but get sucked into the pictures. Interesting. So yeah, hopefully I can get a good chunk of this done over the coming week, along with 10 pages each of the other big books. And also I need to finish this book, so I'm going to wrap this up so I can get back to reading. And yeah, now it's a busy week. I have to teach. I have to go do physical therapy. So we'll just have to see. It'll be fine. Everything is good. I hope everyone is doing well. I also have a couple, at least, 2 tags that I want to get to. But if I don't get to them this week, it's fine too. I mean, I don't want to. It'll be fine. Whenever I get to them, I think it's fine. I hope everyone is doing well, and I will check in with you within the next few years. One last thing. This is tangential to books. I have, you know, my little movies that I make of the cats, but now I've started to make little movies wherein the cats figure along with just snippets from my week. And I don't know, first of all, I don't even know if I should post them because it's tangential to books, but I kind of like them and I like making them. So then I'm thinking of what should I call them? So, you know, we have the Grimm Chronicles, we have the cat tales, but then now we have the glimpses of Grimm, or Grimm glimpses, or I don't even know. It's just sort of mini vlogs with music and pictures and imagery to do with, you know, the world around me. But it's not a big deal. I'll just think about it. If you have any suggestions for what to call it, they're kind of like vlogs, but they're not with one thing. It's funny how at the end here being chatty. So when I did Vlogmas, and so like a real traditional vlog is that you talk to the camera and then you have imagery. And for some reason, I don't want to do that. I like doing this, talking about what I'm reading, and I like making these little movies that are just images and music. But talking and interspersing that with, that's kind of, I'll do that for Vlogmas again, when I'm sort of committed to doing that. I don't know why I'm sort of want to do either or, but not together. It's just probably, I'll try and get into it. Maybe it's because I'm tired with work. We're getting into the spring and I am getting tired with teaching and everything. So that could be it. You know, that's probably it. With me, the answer is usually because I'm tired. Anyway, having epiphanies on camera. Hope everyone is doing well, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye-bye.